Apologies once again, everybody. We can now dive into the live stream. Apologies. Hello and welcome once again. My name is Mulesa Lumina, and I'm the Legal and Communications Officer for the International Commission of Jurists Africa Regional Team. And today I am joined by three incredible human rights advocates who will be providing their experiences, insights, and expertise on the topic of access to justice for LGBTIQ+ survivors of gender-based violence. I'm also very proud to share that we'll be launching our report on the experiences of LGBTIQ+ persons interacting with the justice system in Lesotho. I'll give the speakers an opportunity to introduce themselves, but I'll just provide a little bit of background information and context to the report and our discussion today. The ICJ's new briefing paper outlines some of the obstacles that LGBTIQ+ persons face in getting justice for violations for their human rights and makes recommendations to the Lesotho authorities on how to address them. The findings presented in our briefing paper are based on discussions held with the People's Matrix Association, a partner of the ICJ on a number of projects, research conducted by the ICJ, including virtual and in-person interviews with human rights advocates and lawyers, as well as focus group discussions with LGBTIQ+ individuals in the Maseru and Lariba districts of Lesotho. These engagements were aimed at capturing first-hand experiences of the obstacles that LGBTIQ+ persons have encountered when interacting with and attempting to access the justice system. They reported that such obstacles hinder their ability to seek protection and redress for violations of their human rights, especially their rights to equality and non-discrimination, and to lead a life that is free from violence. The paper details a number of human rights concerns which have made interacting with the justice system extremely difficult for LGBTIQ+ persons in Lesotho. This includes the fact that many violations are not reported to the police and other authorities, that there are inadequate laws to protect against SOGI-based discrimination, the case is not properly identified, recorded, and classified by police, or bias and perceptions of bias in the justice system, the judicial system, amongst many other concerns. We'll talk about the report findings as we go along with the discussion, but for now, I'll hand over to the speakers to do brief introductions before we dive into the conversation. We'll start with Giselle, Tampose, and then Thiruna, and then we'll dive straight into the conversation so we don't waste any more time. Giselle, please go ahead.
Thanks so much, Melissa. Hi, everyone. My name is Giselle Ratalane. I am Advocacy Officer at the People's Matrix Association, as well as a research consultant. I'm very happy to be here to share my insights on the report and our work with ICJ. Thank you.
Please go ahead, Tampose.
Oh, hi. My name is Tampose Mothopeng. I work with the People's Matrix as the Executive Director. Thank you.
My name is Thiruna Naidoo. My pronouns are she, her, and I work with Outright International in the Africa Regional Team as a project officer. And I also have experience as a human rights lawyer and defender for LGBTIQ+ equality, specifically in Africa.
Wonderful. So without wasting any more time, let's just go into each of our speakers' interventions. We'll start with Thiruna. So the report, as I already mentioned, outlines a few challenges already, but I wanted to know, Thiruna, in the context of Africa and just globally as well, what do you consider to be some of the major challenges that LGBTIQ+ persons may experience when it comes to getting access to justice as survivors of GBV? And you can also draw experiences of your organization in terms of effective advocacy strategies that have been employed to provide support to LGBTIQ+ persons when navigating the justice system.
All right, thank you for that question. I think, just reflecting on what you have asked, there are many structural barriers that exist just for the average person seeking redress for incidents or situations of gender-based violence that an individual may have experienced, but even more so for LGBTIQ+ identifying persons. We particularly see that lesbian, bisexual, and queer women, as well as transgender and gender non-conforming persons, and men who exhibit feminine traits, face particularly the most amount of barriers in accessing justice. And it really starts from the beginning point of reporting. So you'll see that in the reporting process, there may be challenges with being able to document and record the incident, as well as highlight the level of danger or threat that they've experienced and ongoing threats to the individual's safety. And that then disrupts what the ideal justice response system would look like. So we then see that from the initial point of contact with a law enforcement official or an entrusted state official who is meant to take action. So, for example, there may be situations where an LBQ woman presents herself to a state hospital and exhibits symptoms of having experienced or encountered a sexual assault. And the onus is on the medical practitioner to make an official report, to record the incident, and to take forward the action. So we usually see that due to either the discounting or the lack of understanding of what it means to be LBQ or what it means to be of a non-heteronormative identity, there will be either mistakes or misconduct in the way that the person is engaged at the initial point of recording or reporting the incident. And moving forward, we do see that access to legal services, especially affordable, accessible, and well-informed legal services that can take into context the identity aspects are also a challenge to access. In African states where there is a lack of legal recognition or legal tolerance for LGBTIQ plus identities, it's very difficult to find a private attorney or firm that would be willing to assist with matters that relate to gender-based violence in particular, but even more broadly, to deal with LGBTIQ plus equality issues. We do see as state and agencies are generally the first point of contact and the ones who have oversight over the prosecution and investigation processes, that the lack of sensitization and training of state officials, such as police services, and other individuals that work within the justice system, there may be factual inaccuracies, missing information, or the lack of recording important information that provides context as to why, beyond, an ordinary incident of gender-based violence, there are aggravating factors that should be considered at the point of sentencing. So I think that we often see that LGBTIQ plus identifying individuals often struggle to get to the point of their matters being taken to trial against an identified perpetrator and then successful sentencing that takes into account the aggravating factors, whether there was a hateful intention or whether there was a specific phobic intention of perpetrating the form of crime against the individual. And I think looking at it outside of a criminal justice lens, we do see that the different climates, such as in states where there is still active criminalization of same-sex sexual relations, makes it a lot harder for victims to be reporting and to feel safe enough to report an incident of intimate partner violence, for example, without, the fear or concern of accidentally outing themselves and then leaving themselves vulnerable to a whole new scenario where the state itself is persecuting them in their pursuit of accessing justice. In our organization, we work with local movements to enable different avenues for access to justice. In Lesotho in particular, we have an ongoing program that focuses on legal gender recognition because we believe that the environment would benefit from the express recognition of transgender and gender non-conforming persons, and that would make access to justice for that specific marginalized group accessible. And we have a range of other avenues. At the moment, we're currently implementing a conversion practices project, and we do have an upcoming report that will be released in the first quarter of 2025 that speaks on gender-based violence and how it relates to conversion practices, because there are specific forms of conversion practices that are initiated with the intention or that overlap with the area of gender-based violence. So, for example, specific forms of sexual assault that is aimed at a curative or corrective intention through the lens of the perpetrator overlaps with both existing forms and recognized forms of gender-based violence, as well as conversion practices which need to be articulated under legal systems and be litigated using like other and available forms of legislation and policy protections that exist within a framework. We do see that LGBTIQ plus communities are equipping themselves with information and resources to be able to fight back against this. We know that using the South African example, the gender-based violence space has become more intersectional through the role of gender non-conforming and LBQ activists playing an active role within feminist spaces to ensure that there is representation and an understanding that gender-based violence does not harm women and girls in particular. It harms people of marginalized genders. And many individuals within the LGBTIQ plus community either identify or are impacted by forms of marginalization on the basis of gender because of the way they express their gender role or the way they express their gender through their relationships and interactions with the world at large. Maybe we can hand over to our next speaker to share more.
Thank you very much, Thiruna. That was really, really thorough. Thank you. And I think that's a good segue into asking Tampose now. A question around specific barriers that LGBTIQ plus persons face when seeking justice for gender-based violence in Lesotho in particular. And I'd also like to know, Tampose, how can these barriers be addressed through things like policy change, advocacy initiatives that organizations such as Matrix are employing, other community initiatives? Please could you paint a picture of those barriers and then how they can be addressed and how your organization has also addressed those barriers?
All right, thank you so much, Mulesa. Yeah, thank you for also allowing us to reflect on the barriers that and also our experiences in Lesotho. We have like a number of issues that we can raise. The first one being the obvious stigma and discrimination. We all know that LGBTI people often face social stigma and exclusion, which leads to negative impact on their access to justice. There are also in Lesotho, you find that there are inadequate legal protections, especially for the LGBTI community. Yes, our framework is not as clear as in other countries, or as explicit as in other countries where you find that it's either clear that there's discrimination or there's anti-discrimination. So Lesotho, it's quite confusing. So because of that, then people are unable to, they fear to access justice or even to approach justice systems. So there's also the element of punitiveness within the justice and law enforcement units, where people feel they experience hostility from the system itself. So when they think of going to access justice system, then they think of hostility and the negative reception they're going to get within the system itself. So yeah, that's one of the barriers that hold people back from accessing justice in Lesotho. So looking into another aspect being the economic part, the constraints of economic barrier is also leveraging into some of the social aspects where people are not able to access justice because now there are costs that are attached to the legal systems. Talking about the economic constraints, we can also attach it to the structural interventions or structural barriers, looking into the terrain of Lesotho, knowing that most of the services are centered in the lowlands and in the highlands. For people to access services is a bit challenging, and for people to travel from their villages to wherever they need to get services is a bit of a challenge. So there's also limited data, especially I'm going to highlight this because it affects most of the people, especially after the survivors have gone through, accessed justice or have gone through the justice system. Then we don't have any documented experiences of people after or post the process to say, this is what happened to me, because experiences speak better than looking into people's personal journeys. So there's another issue that I thought it would be also important for us to flag, being the issue of advocacy. The advocacy is very limited in Lesotho because of the terrain of the country. So even where the matrix is able to reach, we cannot reach the entire nation or the entire country because of the limitation of resources that the organization is also facing. So there, for us to overcome these barriers, the first thing that comes across my mind will be the issue around policy change, enactment of policy, especially the laws that are explicitly protective of the community. That will also serve as a platform for people to be able to, refer to the specific laws and also to gain strength to be able to report cases. And one of the challenges that I forgot has to do with has to do with the fact that the survivors or victims, the perpetrators are mostly people who are close to them, being their parents or being the people whom they depend on. So it's quite tricky for people to report, especially when they know that no one is going to be on the side after receiving I'm sorry about that. After documenting or even after reporting the cases. So one of the strategies to overcome these challenges it has to be centered around implementation of protective laws. We know Lesotho has the laws like counter domestic violence of 2022 that is explicitly protecting people in Lesotho, including the LGBTI and labor law and other relative laws that are explicit towards sexual orientation and gender identity. So another element would be the advocacy that needs to be done by the organizations for especially the dialogues within law enforcement and justice judiciary officers, just to ensure that at least people have clear understanding of the community and the community needs and how best to handle their cases, the cases of LGBT individuals. Utilization of community systems like views that I know Giselle is going to talk about, which is violation the community system that helps us to document the incidences is one of the methodologies that we encourage for the organizations to use that would help even people who are not able to report to be able to come forward, because it offers the platform for even anonymous reporting, and also it offers that protection where people are not able to report. So the community-based initiatives I mean, sorry, there's distraction from my neighbors here. Okay, sorry about that. Yeah, the other thing that I wanted to talk about is mobilization of resources for holistic case management, being your psychosocial support or any emerging needs that are accompanied with the cases that are brought to justice. Because if we are unable to respond to the holistic needs, or even to be able to apply person-centered approach to respond to the needs, then people do not feel comfortable in reporting, and also because there are also consequences after reporting on other people. So it's about how do we support or even journey with those who are not ready, to ensure that they access other psychosocial services. Okay, for the People's Matrix, we've been leading the case holistic management process called REACT, which is Rights, Evidence, and Action. We have been implementing this since 2015 until now, when we are adopting views to strengthen that REACT model, because we realized that it had its gaps. So now it's all about how do we strengthen it through views. So views is under Imaki, under my box that you mentioned earlier. So there are also strategies that we've been implementing, working closely with the church and the different community groups, or even community leaders in Lesotho villages and in different platforms, where we were applying dialogue as a strategy to ensure that at least the community is safe at community level and within the communities, with the understanding that, because we understood that LGBTI community or even individuals are not foreigners from different countries or even from a specific platform or area, but they are same kids, they are same parents, they are same people from the villages. So now it was all about how do we navigate the existing systems to ensure that people are being protected within their villages, within their churches, or within the community, any community structures. So now we can also talk about community mobilization and community organizing. As the organization, we have been investing much of our time, even resources, in community organizing, just to ensure that we strengthen the voice of the community for advocacy purposes and also accountability purposes, for them to be able to access justice, and also to access any kind of services that they may need as the LGBTI individuals. The partnerships that we have developed at community level also serves as an opportunity for us to uplift or to strengthen access to justice at community level. I have two more. We have been doing a lot of advocacy around policy change through the national legal reforms, where we're looking into the interest of the country, where they want to strengthen the laws. It can be the constitution or the policy or whatever. So it was all about positioning ourselves to participate in the process of ensuring that whatever laws or policies being reviewed, then we have our voice and we are being able to influence whatever change needs to be done. So lastly, is the issue to do with restorative justice system, because Lesotho they culturally or traditionally believe in restorative justice system. So we realize that this is one of the strongest system that can help us even change perception of people towards LGBTI people, because we understood that without helping the perpetrator understand the damage or even the trauma or whatever done to the survivor, then we won't be able to get rid of the cases that are happening towards the LGBTI community or individuals. So we are investing much of our time working hand in hand with different partners to implement a restorative justice system at community level and at high level. I think that will be my contribution. Thank you so much again.
Thanks so much, Tampose. And I think that the point that you ended on regarding community mobilization, I think is a good place for us to pick up with Giselle, the next part of the conversation, which would be, Giselle, I'd like you to talk us through what grassroots advocacy strategies have been most effective in mobilizing community support based on your experience. And also in terms of just raising awareness generally about the issues regarding GBV against LGBTIQ+ persons at the national level, but also within communities as well, and the unique challenges that LGBTIQ+ individuals face. What strategies have you found to be the most effective, and how do you think that human rights defenders can collaborate most effectively to ensure that there is an environment that empowers survivors to be able to seek justice?
Thanks, Melissa, for that. I think grassroots advocacy strategies have been touched on by TP very briefly, but the most important one is through, I would say, movement building, encouraging movement building. So Metrics has been on a journey to help communities to be self-sustaining with an effort to diversify services from the city center that Metrics offers. So what we've done is empower communities in the very different districts that we work in. We currently work in about 8 districts now, to kind of model their activism structure around the advocacy strategy that Metrics uses. So what we've done then is empower these communities through formation of committees. These committees kind of model a structure that we have here, to be able to manage cases that happen there, and to also be able to help people experiencing challenges to navigate justice systems there, socially speaking. This is to help us kind of not have finances as a barrier to be able to help people in remote communities, right? So I guess that kind of also helps us to get real life reporting of cases as they happen, and also help people navigate judiciary systems or where they are, and get service where they are. So that's kind of been a main advocacy strategy for the People's Metrics. But we've also engaged with traditional justice system tools like TP said, engaging chiefs, taking them through a SOGI program. This helps chiefs as first responders to justice cases in rural communities to be aware of the existence of LGBTI communities. Because of kind of cultural barriers that have been in place because of, phobic cultural laws against LGBTI persons, I feel like the SOGI program has kind of softened the approach that the chiefs in these villages have towards LGBTI persons. For example, I think one of the main challenges that LGBTI persons faced was presentation and dress when they go on to seek these kind of justice from chiefs. So that has been addressed, and it's been an important point for us to make sure that chiefs understand that we present differently, and dress code doesn't necessarily mean disrespect. to the courts, or at least the places of work. So that's been one of the major advocacy, or at least grassroots advocacy strategies that we've been trying to use. And it's not only been with chiefs. For example, we've done activism work with police, where we go into the police to kind of sensitize them around gender diversity and gender expression. This way, when people go on to seek redress or report cases, the first thing they encounter is not discrimination, but opportunities for them to present their cases. We've also gone into church communities to kind of offer similar programs, but with church communities, we've gone through with our religion program to have a teaching or a message of hope instead of one of discrimination, because we do believe that, and we do acknowledge that the Bible has been used, or religion rather, has been used as a tool for perpetrating homophobia. So we've gathered religious leaders in their respective denominations to take them through a program that would help them also lead the community in understanding the LGBTI communities better. So we found also positive feedback from these communities, because what they do then, when people are able to use them as points of access or first response to access to justice, we see an increase in uptake of their services to, one, report crimes, but also to be part of community. And this helps us in the fight against homophobia or even violence against our communities, which is high and rampant. And how can we as human rights defenders collaborate with each other to create a more inclusive environment? I feel like not working in silos, for one. We do know that most of our challenges in the activism space is finance. So we find that through collaboration with different organizations that focus on maybe different aspects of work around GBV case management, we're able to not only have referrals that cut costs on our end, but we're also able to foster a collaboration that is financially efficient, I imagine, but it also helps us as an organization to also network with other organizations doing similar work to adopt strategies that we might be using to become more effective in delivering justice to LGBTI persons. And I believe that at a much more higher level, we've engaged with the judiciary through, of course, the ICJ. And one of the major points that came out of there was that LGBTI persons aren't reporting cases, at least because cases that go in front of the courts of law are not coded or indexed properly to hint at a crime being motivated by phobia for gender or sexuality. So most cases are adjudicated, maybe not focusing on or even indexing homophobia as a cause for that crime. So for example, quite recently, we had a case of a transgender woman that was murdered. Of course, it was sex work in a place of work, crime motivated by their gender identity, but that was not indexed properly when it went to be reported at the police level, all the way to the prosecution when now this person got a sentence for murdering another person. The murder was not coded as phobic because of misgendering, for example. And so cases like those are what we were encouraged to present in front of the courts of law, so that when cases are adjudicated, at least there's some form of record keeping from the justice system to say that whatever crime was motivated by a phobia for gender variance. That way, as activists, we're able to use those rulings as lobby informants. We can use that to lobby for a change in specific acts. For example, right now I do know that we're in conversation to have like a hate crimes bill going on, but for us to be able to get data for that, we need evidence, and evidence, I guess, at that level will come in from adjudications or rulings from the court of law to show that there is an increase in such cases or violent cases against our communities. It also, I'd like to mention that I think data collection or research rather on these issues is very important because advocating or lobbying at a higher level requires factual, evidence-based approach because people want to see data, they want to see factual evidence presented to them. Not that our experiences as like for lack of justice aren't factual, it's just that they're not properly indexed or recorded. And therefore, we miss out on opportunities to convince lawmakers to make laws that are in favor of, not even in favor really, but laws that protect us and make us free from discrimination. And so I believe that LGBTI activism is not only in the LGBTI activism space, but the strength of that advocacy is in forming the right relationships with the right stakeholders that make the laws or even have favorable policy or could make favorable policies that will protect us eventually, which I think Matrix has been very good at for their soft advocacy approach, where the focus has been building relationships with multiple stakeholders in government and also in parliament as well. So that's led to, I think, of recent successfully influence in changing some aspects of laws or certain acts to make them more favorable to LGBTI communities. And so, yeah, that overall has enhanced a little bit of some protections, but what we'd like to see is full protections and not just interceptions here and there, because that's a much longer, I think, strategy, to be honest. It would be nice to kind of have laws that are protecting us now fully and completely so that we know that we have legal recourse in case we are violated against. So, so yeah, I think in a nutshell, I'd like to say very briefly and like a little summary that engaging or well, building community structures for LGBTI persons to be able to defend themselves, informing them of their rights and what they deserve is very good as an activism strategy because Metrics as an institution cannot reach all those communities. So communities leading their own advocacy in their own not really indigenous, but in their own ways where they kind of understand the social context has been the best advocacy strategy for us. It also helps us like divest, like I said, engaging with traditional judicial systems like chiefs and police and the church structures, for example, has also helped us a lot in terms of easing access to justice for rural communities. And also at a high level, like I said, having the right networks and having a much more softer diplomatic approach to building those relationships and trying to get lawmakers to understand our concerns has led us to have had some influence that is maybe unseen in other countries where LGBTI groups are able to negotiate their way into laws to make them favorable for themselves. So yeah, I'd like to say that we feel like a soft diplomacy approach that we've been taking has been very effective and has helped us build long-term relationships that will hopefully see a positive law change. Although slowly there is some change, and we should acknowledge that we are very exceptional as a country for being given opportunities to also engage at that level as well. So that's all I have to say to that. I'm not sure if I missed anything, but I will raise my hand if there's something else.
Thanks very much, Giselle. No, that was fantastic and very, very, very thorough. Thank you to both you and TP for outlining that so well and to just really unpacking all of those issues. I think for the last, still running out of time, I'll just ask each of you to just give some final remarks on the issues that we've spoken about. Thank you all for your very, very in-depth presentations on these issues. It really helped illustrate the picture of what's going on and what strategies work best in solving these issues and these problems. So we'll start with Thiruna. You can just give a few final words.
I think first I have to thank my fellow panelists for providing a context-specific intervention that allows us to understand the different social and legal dynamics that impacts Lesotho citizens in accessing justice and attempting to access relief from the state. And secondly, I'd like to commend the ICJ and the Lesotho community in being able to put together such a comprehensive resource that will be a great tool, not just only for the movement in Lesotho, but also for other movements in Africa to use the statistics to build similar arguments and to develop an Africa responsive body or catalog of research that provides a bit of insight into the specific challenges from country to country in accessing justice, particularly in relation to gender-based violence. So I'd like to commend you both on being able to put out such a great report and making it accessible for us, especially in line with 16 days of activism, which has been a very heartwarming period this year. We've had a lot of losses for the community and a lot of challenges for the movement during the course of the year. But I think it's been heartwarming to see the way that a number of different regional stakeholders, as well as national movements, have been programming around 16 days of gender-based violence so that we can ensure that there is queer representation in the gender-based violence movement, and that there is an understanding that there's a need to address minority community issues within the broader framework that exists to combat and push back against gender-based violence in Africa. So in closing, I would like to encourage us to read the report, refer to it, and find ways to cite it in our ongoing work. And I look forward to seeing how the Lesotho community takes forward this resource and uses it to inform advocacy strategies at the grassroots and national level. So thank you very much to my co-panelists and to the ICJ for having me. I will be dashing now, but I look forward to seeing how we can take forward engagement on this topic. Thank you all.
Thank you so much for that, Thiruna. I really appreciate you being a part of this important discussion. And yeah, if you do need to leave, then please do go ahead. But thank you for articulating all of those heartfelt sentiments and for sharing that message about continued solidarity in this regard. Tampose, can we get some final remarks from you?
Okay, thank you so much for your continued support. And also for creating this time, the platform during this time of 16 days. Yeah, I know it's beyond 16 days of activism, but I mean, this is a lot for us. It means a lot to us also to have evidence for us to be able to inform our advocacy work. We highly appreciate it, and we appreciate the work that we do with ICJ and also with Outright International, because without you and I don't know how would have done so much or moved the mountains in the country. We're looking forward to continued support and to working together towards creation of enabling environment for the community in Lesotho. Yeah, on behalf of my colleagues and also the community in Lesotho, we really appreciate your support and we appreciate you. Thank you so much. Without wasting any time, let me just say thank you.
Thank you, Tampose. And I think that, on behalf of ICJ as well, we're also very grateful to People's Matrix and to Outright as well for the projects that we have collaborated on, including this report as well, which we will definitely use to continue advocacy efforts around this particular issue of access to justice. So we are very, very grateful for your partnership and your ongoing support to us in helping us to shape this report, as also to get it out there as well. And lastly, Giselle.
Hi, Melissa. Oh my gosh. So very formally, I'd like to thank the ICJ, Melissa, and the team for literally getting our dreams out there. I feel like for the community, the activism that's done on the ground, if it's not recorded, if it's not written about, then there's that lack of historical recording of our struggles. Reports like these aren't just, I guess, milestones for, I don't know what else would be checking, but these are very important because they impact people's lives and they show in real time what's happening. Um, Therefore, they lead directly to actionable outcomes and very impactful actionable outcomes. We've been asking for allyship that looks like this, that translates to real action. And I think reports like these, like research, data collection systems, and this kind of support at this level that allows us to lobby and actually prove that we're suffering, that proves our humanity and also requires on our end, on our behalf, although more formally, of our needs, is what we need. And this is the kind of activism that I want to partake in. It doesn't discount any other forms of activism, but I feel like being on record, data collection is so much more impactful, and as we've realized, and it also kind of, in a way, marks history in time, you know, for the community here. So we're very thankful and we do appreciate your help, and we hope this continues and it's not the end. So yeah, I'm very grateful, and I wish that we have demonstrated through this partnership the kind of allyship, or what real allyship is and what it means for us as a community. This is real, active allyship that we appreciate. So on behalf of me, the team, and the community, we are forever grateful for this. And I hope it's not the last time that we collaborate on work like this. So yeah, I do hope people share the report, use the report. We will surely be using the report. So yeah, thank you so much, ICJ, Melissa, and the team. And yeah, thanks so much.
Thank you very much, Giselle, for those heartfelt sentiments as well. And we are also looking forward to continuing our collaborations with this with the advocacy on this report and other projects that we continue to collaborate on in this particular area. I'll just share a bit of I'll just share with everybody where they can get the report. So please visit the ICJ website to download the report and the executive summary. If you have any additional questions about it, then you can also feel free to email me at Lumina@icj.org. Otherwise, you can also follow us on our social media pages, including X and Facebook at ICJ Africa, where we'll also be sharing more information of the report as we go along. Please do disseminate it widely. We really feel like this will be an important tool for us to use in our advocacy efforts going forward. And we look forward to continued collaboration with the People's Matrix, as we've mentioned, to continue this very important work in this area around these issues. So thank you very much, everybody, for joining us, for those who joined the live stream, and for those who joined us here on Zoom. Apologies for the rocky start, but I think that it was a very informative, very eye-opening, and very thorough discussion from all of our panelists. So thank you very much to them. Thank you for your participation. And we look forward to engage you at our next event. Goodbye.